Security factor. So you can hear me now. Great. I would like to share my screen, but first I would like to thank Philip and Richard for this opportunity to share my experience in the field of medical devices management and protection with this healthcare community that we're talking to today. Now, we absolutely know, as Dr. Abid had said, that there is more to manage than just fixing the medical equipment. It's always about the patient safety and the safety of the healthcare givers too as well, plus the patient healthcare information. So we know the complexity of that, and to understand what level of protection we should be giving or we should be providing, first we need to understand what is the definition of a medical device, because with the revolution of everything that's been going on from a technology standpoint, medical devices has become more complex because it's not that typical piece of equipment in a room. It could be more than that. Now a medical device can be defined nowadays in multiple ways. It could be either a device that's intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent a disease, or it could be even a software in an electronic device. Could be a phone, could be a tablet, or anything that is intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent a disease. Or better yet, it could be a component of or an accessory of an existing medical device. These medical devices, like any other computer systems, can be vulnerable to security breaches that potentially will impact the safety and the effectiveness of not only the device itself, but also the entire hospital network. This vulnerability is increasing nowadays, and we see that actually very clearly through their constant connectivity to the internet, hospital network, or even any other medical devices that they are connected to the network. Now, my question to you guys: do you see my presentation or not? I mean, Richard, can you help me out then with sharing my presentation, please?
Yeah. So you should have a share
screen. I got it. I did hit that, but it didn't work. Okay.
Okay. So if you share, and then I presume share your application. So if you're sharing PowerPoint, then go to share and then application, then PowerPoint.
Yeah. Let me see if you can see.
There we go. We got something coming up now.
Can you see it?
Yes. Well, nearly.
Nearly. There we go.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Let me see.
And if you should be able to make some. There we go. That should be good.
You're good?
Yep, perfect. There you go, sir. You're ready to go.
Okay, great. I'm glad that we went through just the definition of the medical devices. Now, with that being said, we do have, a lot of challenges in there. Addressing cybersecurity threats and reducing information security risks is extremely challenging to the equipment owners, because, these threats cannot be completely eliminated, and we know that. We try our best to kind of find cures and find protection levels to those equipment, but hackers are smarter than us too, and they find other ways to penetrate our equipment and penetrate our environment. And these threats are set to increase even further with the adoption of the Internet of Things, the IoT, by healthcare organizations, and this is going all over the place, and by consumers too as well. And this integration of network, the computing technology, and the software has enabled even the increase of the integration and effectiveness and efficiencies of the hospital information IT, the healthcare technology management, which is clinical engineering, and the suppliers. And that happens through remote diagnostics, opening the gateway for remote diagnostics and remote connectivities, maybe for service providers. And at the same time, this has intentionally opened that gateway of risk that we have to defend and we need to defend. There are multiple hands, accessing the equipment and accessing those medical devices, looking at certain error logs or looking at certain configurations or looking at certain, protocols in there through remote diagnostics and through remote connectivities. And we have to be very careful with that. How can we even find the cure and the good solution for that? Therefore, manufacturers, hospitals, and even HTM, IT, and other service providers must work together to manage and mitigate these risks, because if we do not work together, I think we will be missing a point. Now, We know that there is a definite need to balance protecting patient safety, patient privacy, and promoting the development of innovative technology and improved even device performance and efficiencies. You know, with the technology revolution nowadays, manufacturers actually are in a race of producing the top of the line pieces of equipment and making sure that they are providing to the healthcare providers, you know, the latest and greatest, but they are not even looking at other factors when we do that. And these are, you know, some challenges to kind of worry about and to avoid potential threats by our you know healthcare providers and by our IT and HCM departments. A strict process must be created for the purpose of enabling the proper steps to be followed to ensure both patient safety and patient information safety. And this process or this standard practice, if we have to call it, it should be practiced by creating an inventory. We have to have a very good grip on our inventory. We have to have a good plan for our replacement of equipment or upgrading the equipment where possible. We have to document the retirement timelines, and we have to, which we call it the replacement plan or the end of life for equipment or end of support for equipment. We have to make sure that we do have a good grip on that and we don't let pieces of equipment, you know, fall through the cracks and being in service while they are not supported neither by the manufacturer nor by the department that's managing it within the hospital, and suggesting updates and patches to be presented. We present that as a kind of preventive procedure because we are not going to wait until something happens. We have to have a good grip on our example for our MDS2s and our relationships with the manufacturers to make sure that they are aware of that we know what's going on in our environment and want to make sure that we are protecting our interests as much as we can. Now, all of this can be achieved actually by you know, making the cybersecurity solution part of the hospital existing governance, and we have to enforce it. Risk management too, and it has to be part of the business continuity framework. Now, we know that with that being said, there are risks, you know, because medical device cybersecurity, now it's a global issue of concern. This is not something that's just for UK or for United States or for other places in the world. This is a global, you know, problem. And as the other presenters had mentioned earlier today, it could be somebody sitting in China or Russia trying to penetrate one of a piece of equipment in the United States and UK. So there are no limits, there are no border lines for it, and it's just a kind of open gateway. Now we know that's a big risk, and we know security incidents have the potential to threaten the safety of the patients in the healthcare system across the world. And we know that this is not just for one hospital or one hospital system. It could affect one place to the other because of affiliations, because of relationships between hospitals and other service providers, whether it's imaging centers or laboratories or maybe ambulatory surgery centers, or it could be any other medical office buildings. These kind of relationships through the network might be a potential threat to that. And that could cause actually diagnostic or therapeutic errors by compromising, you know, the safe performance of the device. The device is intended to work in a certain way. If that's stopped or deviated from what it's supposed to be doing, that will pose a huge threat actually to the patient diagnosis or to the patient therapies. And it could affect, you know, the clinical operations as a whole or in general by denying patient access, maybe to critical care. They could block it from happening. So we know that these are huge risks, and we know that collaborations of global healthcare cybersecurity, not just one place, not just one continent, it should be globally, is necessary to ensure that patient safety is maintained while encouraging still the innovation of technologies and allowing timely patient access to kind of safe and effective medical devices, because medical devices is a huge factor in here. And we have to make sure that we encourage all the stakeholders to harmonize their approaches to cybersecurity across the entire life of the piece of equipment, not just, you know, during the warranty period or during, you know, the operation of the device. It should be the entire life of that piece of equipment. Now, we know that there are responsibilities in here that we have to take care of. medical device cybersecurity, it's a shared responsibility between all stakeholders, including manufacturers, healthcare systems, healthcare providers, the users themselves, regulatory agencies, and the support services such as IT and HTM, facilities management, and others. All stakeholders actually must understand their responsibilities, because that's the way we can educate them to kind of react or maybe behave in a way when they see something, and work closely with other stakeholders even to continuously monitor, assess, mitigate, communicate, and even respond to any potential threat or any potential cybersecurity risk throughout the life cycle of that piece of equipment again. So if you look at this slide, you will see that there is more than one stakeholder responsible for the safety of the patient. And again, I will always press on the safety of the patient and the safety of the patient information, because that's the intent of the entire thing in here. But everyone is looking at it from their own angle and expertise. We see HTM, which is healthcare technology management. I represent that. We see IT, we see the clinicians. Now, clinicians, as Dr. Abed had mentioned, he says, well, if I'm in ER or if I'm waiting for results, that's what I'm caring about. You need to worry about other stuff, or somebody else need to do that. Now, clinicians, they look at their patient care. They look at the test results. They look at the clinical needs. IT, same thing. They look at their network connectivity. They look at the reliability of their network, and they look at the compatibility of the network, making sure every piece of equipment is compatible with the network that's connected to. While HTM, healthcare technology management, we care about patient safety, we care about the integrity of that piece of equipment, and we care about the availability of that piece of equipment when needed. Now, the common factor between all those stakeholders in here is the medical device, because there's no way we can provide patient care without medical device. There's no way we can get test results or give the clinical needs without that medical device. We need the network for the medical device, and we need the reliability and the compatibility for that medical device to work on the network. Therefore, this responsibility is getting bigger and bigger every day. And therefore, if you look at now the responsibility in general, the medical device manufacturers and the healthcare facilities should take steps actually to ensure appropriate safeguards. It's not just one person who should work, and that communication should be two ways. It should be back and forth, and there has to be a level of communication to kind of give transparently everything that's happening, so they can look at it, dwell over it, and try to kind of find certain cures, or maybe maneuvering around it until they find the cure. And manufacturers should remain vigilant about identifying risks and hazards associated with their medical devices, even the risks that related to cybersecurity. I know that manufacturers, they are focusing on manufacturing, mass of medical equipment. They want to make sure that they produce the latest and greatest to the market, because they have to compete with their competitors. And they look at the piece of equipment as, how can I make it more attractive? So, physicians and technologists and hospital administrations, they look at it and they say, yes, this is what we need, because that's how we got to brag about services. But sometimes they don't look at the cybersecurity as an important factor with their pre-design inputs, because pre-designing is very important, and they should be looking at every little thing when they pre-design, especially making sure that the software is valid to be used, and the software will be upgraded in the future, and the software is something that we could have an access to it, because most manufacturers, they manufacture the device, and when it comes to clinical applications, they go out and they outsource their softwares. Could be Linux, could be Microsoft, could be Apple, could be anything. And now we have to go after those guys when there is a level of remediation or a level of attention that need to be given to the software. Now, what we have to do is we have to start actually with the principles of addressing the security and the safety and incorporate that throughout the life cycle of medical device. And I will keep saying this, because we have to make sure that we're looking at the medical device from cradle to grave, basically, from the procurement process until we dispose of that piece of equipment. a cybersecurity risk that impacts device safety and essential performance, or negatively affect clinical operations or result in diagnostics or therapeutics errors, should also be considered in the medical device risk management process. We have to have a very good solution process in here, because it is very important to make sure that we have a good grip on our pieces of equipment. And that starts with the onboarding of the medical equipment. All information should be documented at the time of the onboarding, whether it's a software, whether it's a revision, whether it's an IP address, an AE title, or any other information. That should be actually inventoried on day one. That's how you can track your piece of equipment, and maintaining a repository of the medical device security sheet, which is the MDS2s. Those are very important, because that's the relationship and the communication between manufacturers and healthcare providers to say, okay, we understand that these pieces of equipment are up for a patch or up for a software update or an upgrade. Without that information, they can't even follow up on that, and probably they wouldn't even get those patches until the very end of the cycle, where everybody had it and they didn't. So having a good repository of the MDS2s is very important. Risk management and cybersecurity management in general should be used by the manufacturers to take the following steps as part of their risk management processes. And the reason is because it is very important for the manufacturers to kind of help us in establishing and enforcing these processes. One of them will be identify any cybersecurity vulnerabilities on their medical equipment manufactured by them. They should estimate and evaluate the associated risks with these medical devices. They should find a way to control those risks to an acceptable level. Now, we understand that there isn't a cure always for everything, but at least find a way to kind of control it and control the risk, or maybe understand the risk so we can maneuver around it up to an acceptable level. They should assess and monitor the effectiveness of this risk control. Is it working, or it should be modified, or it should be coordinated maybe, or communicated to the stakeholders? So certain procedures have to be done when using the medical equipment, or when powering up the medical equipment, or what have you. So there are a lot of things that we have to do, and we have to make sure that we take in consideration. Also, strict process to manage the medical devices in any healthcare should be at least included for a reason, because medical devices could be actually managed by IT, could be managed by facilities management, could be managed by HTM department. How can you coordinate all those departments to make sure that that piece of equipment is being taken care of and nothing has been ignored or maybe unintentionally overlooked? Therefore, that might be a gateway, or it might be a reason why a cybersecurity attack might be easier for the hackers. So with that, I mean, and thanks to Emmanuel, because he shared probably the same screen, but recently ABM, which I represent in here, it's our company. We partnered with Celara on providing this solution to the healthcare providers in the country in here. We had this partnership with Celara almost a month ago, or maybe a month and a half ago. There will be a good announcement and public relations, or maybe a press release coming very soon about this. This solution is great, and this is exactly how we imagined it. Even before we partnered with Celara, we see that passive and multi-site scalability is a must, because we've seen others, they can manage one site too, or single pane management can maybe consolidate all that into one. And we've seen that in the software that's in here. And the other thing is the solution platform, which starts with managing, because you have to manage what you have, and you have to make sure that we understand what we are managing from an inventory standpoint or what have you. And then how can we secure these equipment? How can we secure, the assets that we do own? And at the same time, at the very end, how can we optimize, the functionality or the effectiveness or the efficiencies of those pieces of equipment without being vulnerable for a risk or a potential risk? Now, when we looked at this solution, there was some focusing on, again, the manage, secure, optimize, because we have to make sure that we understand that we are managing the equipment that we do own, that every piece of equipment is on our inventory and we can see it on the network. We can analyze and we can segment if necessary. We know how to defend our network if necessary too as well, and how can we optimize. But that has to work in an integration way with others or other service providers, such as asset management, firewalls, NACs, and infrastructures, and others. Those are very important things to make sure that what you have is integrated with this. And what we found actually is when we looked at it, we looked at the solution roadmap for what could be provided as ABM, as a Cilara, and we looked at certain firewalls in the market, certain asset management softwares in the market, NACs and infrastructure, and we found out that this is very compatible with, as an example, asset management. I'm gonna go over that. Whether it's AIMS, whether it's ServiceNow or Accruent or Nivolo, it's very compatible with it. And with that being said, it's very easy to automate the process. So no more manual looking at certain things, no more manual adjusting or manual modifying the protocols or changing certain protocols. And at the same time, it lowers the total cost of ownership, because now we don't need hubs, or we don't need switches in the middle, or we don't need even manpower that will result in more cost to the equation in here. And we can leverage the insights for better decision making, because now we have everything within our own organization, and we can look at everything from the time we procure the piece of equipment until the time we dispose it off. We can look at the utilization of the piece of equipment, find out where it is if necessary, because it's compatible to certain Wi-Fi solutions such as RTLS or RFIDs. And we can look even at again, as I mentioned, the utilization of equipment. Is it used? How many times it's been used? How many hours it's been used? When it was on but never used, when it was on but operational. So there are a lot of goodies in there that we found that it's a great idea. And therefore we thought that we need, or the need for the effective cybersecurity solution to ensure medical device functionality and the safety has become more and more important, especially with the increasing of the use of the wireless, the internet, the network connected devices, and other IoTs and OTs. Same thing, cybersecurity incidents have caused the medical devices and hospital networks to be inoperable, and we've witnessed that. Also, it caused disruption to the delivery of patient care across the healthcare facility or the healthcare facilities. I've heard about an incident, I think it was in Germany, that resulted in a patient death. Now we are getting to the serious matters. Now we're getting to the point where we should look at this seriously, and we should look at it and find the solutions. Altogether, we are the experts. I'm sure we can find something to make the patient safety, patient life safe, patient information safe, and the end users even safe too as well. Therefore, we see such incidents may lead to patient harm. And as I mentioned, I mean, we just witnessed something in Europe through delays, could be delays in diagnosis, or it could be even errors or manipulating those diagnoses or treatments interventions. So finally, I would say the next steps that we should be looking at is how can we collaborate all together, whether it's OEMs, healthcare facilities, stakeholders such as support services. We need, I mean, everybody needs to remain vigilant about identifying those risks and make sure that we find at least a cure for it, or find a way to maneuver around it and minimize that risks as much as we can. We have to put the appropriate mitigations in place, because we have to address the patient safety risks, and we have to ensure that the device is performing at the level that it should be. And we have to to kind of respond to the potential cybersecurity risks. Again, I would say that again, throughout the life of that medical device, because the life cycle of the medical device is the time when there is a potential risk of being penetrated, or that device may become a gateway to the network, and it may cause a lot of troubles. The conclusion at the very end, we understand, and now we are firm believers that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility among all stakeholders, and we have to promote that broad information should be shared And if there are any policies in place, should be shared transparently, because that will help and elevate the level of protection of our medical equipment, therefore the level of protection to our patients' lives and patient safety. And we make sure that, again, that any impact or any risk that will impact the safety of the device or the performance of the device should be considered in the risk management process that's put by organizations. So the key here at the very end, I would say, is acknowledging that things can go wrong, and we have to always show that level of demonstration of creativity in finding the solution. And we certainly don't need to respond to every risk imaginable, because we know that there are, I mean, a lot of those. And we have to understand that the goal here is to provide the method to help secure what we have anticipated and to deal with any potential major risks. So I think I will conclude it in here. And at the very end, I would like to thank you for this opportunity and hope that I was able to provide you with my experience and practices that will help our healthcare community here to manage their medical device cybersecurity more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And that was very, very much to the point. Thank you very much for sharing that. My camera's gone off. There we go. The joys of technology. Yeah, thank you. I think you raised some very good points there around, you know, the complexities of managing medical devices and some of the risks associated with the current situation. So thank you once again for sharing that. We are about ready to start our next panel, which will be taking the theme that Mike Ahmad very kindly talked about here, the complexities of medical device management, from a vendor perspective, and putting that in the hands of the guys in the hospital who manage those things: clinical informatics, biomed management, and some learned MDs as well that manage these sorts of things. So with that, I would like to thank Mike Ahmad for his session there, and invite to the stage our next panel.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'll see you in the audience.
Thank you.
Perfect. And yes, I've just been receiving some direct messages, but if people want to chat to everybody, please signal all attendees, just so we can all get together. But just as I welcome our panelists, I thought I'd mention that. Let's just make sure we've got everybody.
And we are about to